Hello, everyone. I've got Eric Piscini, the CEO of Citizens Reserve, who's working on a remarkable new blockchain technology he calls Suku that will help improve supply chain logistics globally. So stick around. You don't want to miss this episode.
Welcome to the Your Mark on the World show with your champion of social good, Devin D. Thorpe.
This episode is made possible via the support of our sponsors, including Johnson & Johnson's Caring Crowd. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we're thrilled to have you and grateful that you would take the time to be with us. So tell us about Suku.
So Suku is a project that we started about 18 months ago, and the goal is to address some of the main challenges that we face today in the supply chain world. And those challenges are really around three big topics. The first one is lack of efficiency and the fact that people are not getting the right product at the right time and the right quality. The second one is the transparency and visibility of supply chains. And unfortunately, we have example of that almost every day with food safety or drug safety or the wrong vaccines being delivered to some kids in China. So we have major traceability and transparency issues in supply chains. The last one is the lack of access to supply chain capabilities, and a lot of small and medium companies don't actually have the chance in global commerce to engage because they don't have the access to the software and the platform to do that. So we are addressing all those three things at the same time as a company. It's a very exciting topic.
Yes. So what is your background? How do you connect to the logistics and supply chain world?
So my background has been in different businesses. I've been in supply chain, I've been in banking, in the financial services. I was at Deloitte and I joined Deloitte in the middle of the financial crisis. And that's a little bit why I was attracted to that cryptocurrency concept. And back in 2012, I was a partner at Deloitte and I started the what we used to call the Bitcoin practice because the word blockchain did not exist back then. And we started that practice, just three of us. And when I left a few months ago now, the practice was about 1,200 people working on a lot of different blockchain solutions. So my background has been in technology, in financial services, in supply chain, and I'm super excited to be part of that adventure around supply chain because to me, supply chain is really one of the largest use case that you can address with blockchain.
Why is the supply chain industry space, why is that so ripe for blockchain technology? Why is that?
So, like I said earlier, you have three different reasons why blockchain has to improve. Now, where blockchain fits in is interesting. So if you look at the first one, the lack of efficiency, right? The lack of efficiency is due to the fact that we, all of us in supply chain management are sharing information and data points along the supply chain, but we don't trust each other. Right, and we record information ourselves, and we keep reconciling this information with the rest of the supply chain all the time. And we often have challenges around fraud, around counterfeit, around you name it, right? A lot of different things. So the blockchain will help to actually accelerate the consolidation of data, I want to say, into a trusted platform. And once all of us are trusting the platform, then we don't have to do as much capture of information and reconciliation because now we can trust a single platform, which is a blockchain solution. So that's very important. That's where blockchain fits in the first one. The second one is really extracting one of the key value of blockchain, which is the immutability of the blockchain. Once you start recording information, no one can modify or remove that information after the fact. And when you apply that in supply chain, there is obviously tremendous impact in terms of traceability and provenance of goods and services. And so, for example, you can imagine being in a restaurant, having a filet mignon, and you can scan a mini barcode on the top of the mini flag on the filet mignon and get the provenance of that piece of meat all the way to the farm, so you can see which farm is coming from, what kind of processing company was involved, logistics, and so on, and actually check also the temperature control along the way as you check on the information on your phone. So that's one of the visions we have And I'm mentioning meat because that's one of the topics we are spending a lot of time on the meat industry. And then finally, blockchain is also a new type of technology that creates new types of platforms, decentralized platforms. And because they are decentralized and because you have a new technology that is mostly open source today, you can provide that access to the platform at a lower price to a large number of participants. So back to my 3 points: efficiency, transparency, and access. Blockchain is actually really addressing all three at the same time, which is why it's very exciting to implement blockchain in the supply chain space.
As you think about, as I think about the world, I focus on three things. I'm always worried about extreme poverty, global health, and climate change. How does your technology address those problems?
So I would say those are big problems, but I would say if you look at the lack of efficiency in supply chain, so lack of efficiency means a lot of waste, right, in the process. And waste means usually that you consume more energy, more resources than you need. And so there is a connection with climate change, I think direct connection here. I give you some numbers. The logistics industry, just in the US, is a $1.5 trillion industry with a T. It's a huge, huge, huge industry. And if we can improve just 1% of that, that's a huge number still. And that would have a significant impact to me on resources and climate change overall. I think for the poverty and the global health, I think is maybe a different angle. But I think poverty to me is opening platforms to people who don't have a lot of money, opening the ability for them to transact and sell their product online without losing 30 to 50% of the profits to third parties along the way. I think that would open up a distribution of money that is a little bit different from what we have today. And supply chain is part of that, but supply chain is just a portion of it, right? I think financial inclusion overall is probably the biggest obligation that we have as blockchain industry to deliver to the world, because blockchain is actually almost designed to do that, to do financial inclusion. And I think, if I look at myself, not as a CEO, but as an industry participant, I think we have an obligation to deliver financial inclusion as an industry.
As you mentioned, you've been working on this for about 18 months. Where are you in the process? How soon until you have customers? How close to prepared is the technology, the software, all those things? There's a lot that goes into building what you're proposing here.
Yeah, and so we are going to go live next quarter. We don't have an exact date yet, but it's very soon, in the next few months. So that's very exciting because that's the achievement of the entire team over time. We go with a small portion of the platform. We go with a marketplace solution and what we call a track and trace solution, which is designed to track and trace activities and products. And we do that next quarter with one industry, which is a meat industry, right? That's the goal, is to launch that for the meat industry and then expand to other industries over time. We are working on many different industries, but we want to focus on one, deliver one, and then move to the next one as we improve the first one. The other industries we are working on are vaccine, talking about global health earlier. Vaccine is very important. We are working on soybean, and not as much because of the tariff situation, but more because there is a lot of traceability issues in soybean, in the soybean business. And we are also working on electronics and how do you manage the electronic supply chain. So a lot of industries are also coming to us and saying we would love to be able to use the Suku platform to create new ways of engaging with supply chain participants, especially industries that are not mature yet in terms of supply chain. So we have a lot of activities to generate the next version of supply chain for those industries as well. So we are going to be live by the end of the next quarter, to answer your question, and with a small scope, but we'll expand over time. And we are looking for more partners to join the platform and more technology developers to join the team as well. So we are always looking for best talent and best partners.
Have you been raising money for this project?
We have raised some money already, and we are still raising money as we speak. We are raising money with a very specific scope, right? So we are specifically we are raising money under Reg D 506C, and I don't know if your audience is familiar with all of that.
Well, some of us are. I am, but not everyone on the
Yeah,
show listening. But a 506c offering is one where only accredited investors can participate, but that can be promoted publicly.
correct. And we try to not communicate too much about this to the public because we want to be very limited to the type of investors that we embark. But we've been seeing a lot of interest from the traditional blockchain space as well as the supply chain space, people in supply chain who are looking for the next generation of platforms and want to create those platforms with us. So a lot of interest from investors, which is super exciting to us, especially in a market where, I don't know, the last few months have been very tricky. The last few days have been better, but the last few months have been tricky. And to see that interest still here is very refreshing to us and very exciting.
Yeah. So how much money have you raised so far, and how much more do you hope to raise?
So we raised $12 million so far, and we are hoping to raise up to $45 million.
And are you issuing tokens or are you issuing shares for that offering?
We are issuing tokens. So we are in the token sale. Technically, we are not actually issuing tokens because the tokens are not live yet. They don't exist yet. So we are issuing a financial instrument of security, which is why we are under 506C, and that security convert into token when we go live next quarter.
And will the tokens then represent shares of ownership, or will they simply be the tokens that are used on the platform as a medium of exchange on the platform?
So the tokens are utility tokens, so they don't represent ownership of the company, but they have many different utilities on the platform. The first one is to be able to pay transaction fees with tokens, and if you do that versus paying with dollars, you pay less transaction fees. And you have a lot of other utilities, but some of the more exciting ones are the ability to be voting based on the number of tokens that you have, to be able to vote for the future of the platform and decide where do you want to see improvements on the platform. And at the end of the vote that we would plan on doing every 6 months, you would be able to see the improvement over time based on the feedback from the community, not just from us. Another way to use the token is having access to premium services on the platform. Think of it a little bit like Amazon Prime, where you pay and you get a service. Here you have tokens on your wallet, and based on the number, you will have access to different level of services. And in the supply chain world, obviously, it's different from Amazon. On the supply chain world, it means access to specific sets of data or access to specific tools that we would put on the platform as well. So that's just a subset of the utility of the token.
Well, fantastic. Well, Eric, you have had a remarkable career. As you look back, what are you most proud of having accomplished?
That's an interesting question. I think besides my family, my kids, I think professionally, I think what's interesting is, and every time you change, and sometimes you change because you want to, sometimes you change because you have to. But the way you change is, I think, very interesting. And I moved from France to the US, and then I had to quit my job to go work for Deloitte. And then at some point, a few months ago, I decided to leave my big partner job at Deloitte to go do this. I think those moments of change, I think, is what I'm. I don't know if I say proud, but I think I reflect positively on those events because it's taking risk, but I think the excitement by doing that and the challenge that you put on yourself are really, really exciting. So I would say transitions are what I'm the most proud of.
Yeah. What is the most important lesson you've learned?
The most, I think, in everything we do, I think it's about managing people and managing teams. And I think it sounds very basic, but the most basic thing I think that's important, and we forget about this all the time, including me, is to actually spend time with people and time to know them, time to understand where they're coming from, their aspiration, and then present them with the opportunities. And we keep saying, you give credit and you take blame. I think that's a very, very important piece of operating as a human being and as a professional when you do that. I would say that.
Eric, what has drawn you into this crypto blockchain space? What about this appeals to you?
Well, if you remember what I said earlier, I said I joined Deloitte when the financial crisis was starting in 2007. And as part of that job, actually, one of my projects was to what we said, we were closing banks, right? Because a lot of banks were failing in the US. And one of the clients of Deloitte was the FDIC, who's in charge of closing banks during the financial crisis. And so I've been very much exposed to the crisis at the center of it. And I've seen all the things that you can think of in banking. I've learned about banking. I've learned everything I wanted to know about banking and everything I didn't want to know about banking. And so I've seen all of that live in front of me, and realize that the banking space has been evolved over millennials to where we are today, but there is a significant lack of trust into the system. And when I came across that Bitcoin white paper in 2011, I just realized that that is the beginning of something much, much bigger than just a currency. It's the beginning of building new decentralized business model, not only platform, but business model that are going to really change the way we think about business in the future, business and government, by the way, in the future. And I think that to me was a big realization in 2011, because I was coming from the business angle of things, not from the consumer side, or not from just the speculation aspect of it. I was coming from the business angle, and to me that was a significant event in my life. That was actually 7 years ago. That was at Christmas 2011. I remember very clearly that day.
Yeah, excellent. Well, Eric, what is your superpower?
Oh, I don't know. I don't sleep much. Maybe that's, I don't know if it's a superpower, because a lot of us don't sleep much.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. We are grateful that you take the time. Before you go, would you tell people how they can learn more about Citizens Reserve, your company, and the Suku project, and how they can connect with you personally?
Yeah, so we have obviously a website and LinkedIn and Twitter and all of that. So the website is Suku, SUKU.world, WORLD, and that's the website. And from the website, you can find all the links to all the different social media. I am also very active in different organizations and different communities, different events. So if you see me in one of those events, don't hesitate to come to me and chat with me. And my email address is also available on the website if you need to reach out. So looking forward to the connections.
Fantastic. Well, again, Eric, we thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today, and wish you every success in revolutionizing logistics.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It was great.
Let's do some good.
At Caring Crowd, we believe everyone has the power to make a difference. Through our crowdfunding platform for community health, we empower passionate people to drive real change. Whether you work for a nonprofit organization, volunteer, or want to get involved for the first time, you can post a campaign on Caring Crowd. Join us, because caring is where change begins.
Thank you for listening. Devin Thorpe's mission is to end extreme poverty, improve global health, and mitigate climate change before 2045 by finding and sharing the stories of those who are doing the most good. You can join with other listeners to accelerate Devin's mission by visiting helpdevin.org right now.